A few years ago, whenever I didn't understand something, I used to sit with it, not in a dramatic way, just quietly. I'd reread a sentence, stare at a problem a little longer. Sometimes I'd step away, do something else, and come back later. It wasn't efficient, it wasn't fast, but slowly, something would start to make sense. Today, that experience feels almost unnecessary. Now, when something is unclear, the response is automatic. Open a tool, ask the question, get an answer in seconds. And at first, that feels like progress. You feel capable. You feel informed. You feel like you're moving forward. But recently, I started noticing something subtle. I wasn't thinking the same way anymore. I was spending time with questions. I wasn't sitting in uncertainty. I wasn't following my own half-formed thoughts to see where they led. The answer arrived before the thinking did. And that made me wonder, what happens to thinking? When answers come too easily, we tend to assume that faster answers naturally make us smarter. After all, we have access to better explanations, clearer summaries, and more information than ever before. But intelligence has never been about access. It's about process. Understanding something deeply usually involves friction, confusion, false starts, moments where things don't quite fit together yet. That friction isn't pleasant, but it's meaningful. It's where your brain compares ideas, challenges assumptions, and slowly builds connections. When friction disappears, something changes. The thinking still happens, but less often, and sometimes not at all. Here's a question I started asking myself. If the tools disappeared for just a moment, could I explain what I just learned in my own words? Not repeat it, explain it, and more often than I expected, the answer was no. I had the result. I had the explanation, but I didn't have the understanding. It felt like borrowing intelligence instead of developing it. Again, this isn't a rejection of technology. These tools are powerful, they're useful, they save time and reduce effort in ways that genuinely matter. The problem isn't using them. The problem is how quickly they become the first place we think, instead of the last place we check. When that happens, something quiet starts to fade. The patience to stay with a difficult idea, the tolerance for not knowing right away, the habit of working through confusion instead of skipping past it. These aren't dramatic losses. They resubtle, and because they resubtle, they're easy to miss. You might still be productive. You might still be efficient. You might even feel more confident. But confidence without understanding has a strange quality. It feels solid until it's tested. I've noticed that when thinking becomes optional, we stop exercising it. We accept answers more quickly. We question less, we move on faster. And over time, that speed becomes the norm. Thinking slowly starts to feel unnecessary, uncomfortable, even inefficient. But slow thinking has always been where clarity comes from, not because it's slow, but because it allows space. Space to notice contradictions, space to connect ideas, space to realize when something sounds right, but doesn't quite feel right. When every question has an immediate answer, that space shrinks. And when space shrinks, reflection disappears. The irony is that the people who benefit most from these tools are usually the ones who don't rely on them completely. They already have a habit of thinking. They already question answers. They already pause before accepting conclusions. For them, technology amplifies thought. For everyone else, it risks replacing it. That difference matters, because thinking isn't just about solving problems. It's about forming perspective. It's how we decide what matters, how we interpret experiences, how we understand ourselves and the world around us. When thinking becomes optional, perspective becomes shallow, not instantly, not dramatically, just gradually, and that gradual change is easy to ignore until you notice that you are no longer as curious as you used to be. You don't ask as many questions. You don't sit with ideas as long. You move on. before something really settles. Nothing feels wrong, but something feels missing. This isn't about going backwards. It's not about rejecting convenience or avoiding helpful tools. It's about awareness, noticing when thinking is happening and when it's quietly being skipped. Because the most important thoughts rarely arrive fully formed. They emerge slowly, through uncertainty, reflection, and time. And in a world where thinking is no longer required, choosing to think might be one of the most intentional acts we can make. So I'm curious, do you feel technology is helping you think more clearly, or quietly making thinking optional in ways you're only starting to notice?